ready for two wild guys throwing out spicy ideals on fantasy football. Welcome back to the Dynasty Football Maniacs. Trust at your own risk.
Yeah, so today's show is going to be DLs. We're going to discuss defensive linemen. I know we've covered some offensive players. Last show we had was running backs. So me and Austin talked this over. What we decided to do, we'll do DLs, and then we'll probably go back to wide receivers, and then we'll jump back, probably do DBs or linebackers, probably DBs. We'll do something, but we'll kind of go in that order. We'll swap back and forth the rest of the way. We'll get tight ends in and stuff like that closer to before spring training is finished. That's the goal. So we got a lot to talk about today. So we're going to tier out the defensive linemen and who we think is in tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and then we're going to name off our top 5 rookie coming out this year's DLs. So a lot of things about IDP you got to understand is most of the conferences, usually a DL will also be listed as an LB. Sometimes the DL is just a DL, like your Brian Burns, your Max Crosby. You'll never see a double listing on them. They mainly play defensive linemen. But a Michael Parson, on the other hand, or an Abdul Carter, these guys play edge, line, sometimes middle. So when they're doing all that, they carry both titles. You can play them as a DL or a linebacker.
Yeah, that's the reason.
We're gonna rank them out.
Go ahead. That's the reason why especially with the defensive line and linebackers, you're gonna see there's gonna be some names you see twice, but that's because depending on how they're used, some of them are ranked higher in the defensive lineman, but they still kind of use them. Like sometimes they'll drop back in the linebacker zone spot. So they'll also be, kind of in the linebacker tier. So there's going to be a couple of people that you'll see twice in both lists that at least I know that I'm going to put on there because, IDP is just that way.
Yes, IDP is that way. So this year, like I said, last year, like it happened this year, actually.
Well, hang on now. Let's not go forward that fast already.
So in the NFL draft, out of 257 picks, DLs that were drafted to NFL teams was a total of 32. So that's pretty impressive. That's just DL listings. That's been listed as DLs coming out of college. Now, with that being said, some of these guys might end up being linebackers. So most of them are going to be DLs, and some of them we might actually mention today.
Yeah, right now this is just our, summer camp kickoffs, preseason. This is before we actually know how the teams are going to use these guys.
And then another interesting fact, and I know this is a little bit crazy, but out of 418 free agents that were signed fresh out of college, this ain't counting any veterans, there was actually 418 that made signatures with NFL teams that were not drafted. 37 of them were DLs. So they introduced almost 60 stuff, but you guys got to think about it. They have a 53-man roster with 8 inactive roster personnel. Okay. On top of that, they each have a practice team that can make up 12 to 16 players. Now, a lot of these guys that get signed on free agent, even some of the ones that get drafted, don't end up on teams at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, they got to get the roster down to 53 man. Right. So some of these guys end up on practice teams and other places, and they do have an opportunity later. But let's talk about Brock Purdy. I mean, he just signed $181 million guaranteed. He was last man drafted. So it doesn't really matter where you're drafted. And then another one that I can think of right off the top of my head, Kurt Warner. He was undrafted quarterback and had a great career. So,
the biggest example that everyone loves to use is Tom Brady, who was like in the 6th round. So,
yeah,
and went off and won 7 Super Bowls. So anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
And another thing, so with the defensive linemen, like you said, you statted out. There was a lot of them that came in. That's pretty high. And yes, a lot of them will go to the practice squad and stuff. But, teams nowadays like to rotate their defensive linemen to keep their defensive line fresh. So they like to build depth on that defensive line. That way, if the starters need a break, they'll have competent backups to give their starters a break, and they'll still, you know, be very effective on the defensive line.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, they still can't go over 53-man roster. So
I mean, that's correct. But, if you look at everyone's depth charts, the most besides, maybe wide receivers and some corners and whatever, one of the
defensive
most
linebackers and
ha-
defensive
the,
lines are heavy.
the most position heavy is usually the defensive line and like offensive line.
That is true somewhat. It depends on the team too. It depends on the coach of how they're going to manage their team. So let's get into the rankings here. Let's go ahead and pull out the list. So in tier 1, I have no disagreements. I think it's going to be an easy discussion between me and Austin on this one because we all had our number one. Well, my number one was Max Crosby, and it looks like Austin's number one was also Max Crosby. So we both agreed on that for DL. Now, Max Crosby only carries a DL. So yes, you can't just load your whole roster up on an IDP league with linebackers and /DLs because sometimes it doesn't always pan out. So you want to get a good top DL. And at the end of the day, Max Crosby brings in the points. I think he scored over 250 points last year in fantasy, which is pretty good. So he's a very decent pickup for DL. And I think with the health and everything going on at the Raiders, I think he has an upside this year. I think he's going to have a better year than he did last year. I mean, he's got Christian Wilkins there, and just that whole line is improved. And the team is improved. I mean, you got even a better coach there. Can't ask for more. Pete Carroll. I mean, that's a big change. So I just feel like as long as he stays healthy, I believe he's going to be a big upside. I don't see him being a downside. The next guy, what do you have to say on that?
I think he's going to be either as good as he was last year or even better.
Now, we didn't really agree on our number 2, but it was a vice versa. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm going to go ahead and name Austin's number 2, Will Anderson Jr., at the Texans. Yes, he was my number 3 guy, but he is my tier 1. So, at the end of the day, I'm looking to try to draft him up front. My number 1 guy was TJ Watt. I think more of a TJ Watt as a DL than I do a linebacker, even though he does carry both switches. I would prefer to play him more in a DL position because if I'm going to go pick up a linebacker, I want to try to get one of them high-end ones. Because there's Zaire Franklin, and all them guys are scoring way higher than TJ Watt. But at the end of the day, TJ Watt also gets up to the top 5, top 10 for linebackers. So he's a good player either position, but playing him in DL, I like it there.
Well, it doesn't matter which one you put ahead of the other. Both of them are still in tier 1, in my opinion.
And then the next one we had in there, everybody can probably figure that out, is a solid DL. We got Myles Garrett from the Browns. I mean, that you can't, on the defensive side of the ball, he's definitely impressive. So I don't see any argument there on that one. So I'm looking at fantasy stats. Now, the stats I'm going to look at, well, actually, I'm just going to bring Sleep. That would probably be the best one to go in. Sleeper has probably got the best IDP tracker, I think, for PPR than a lot of these other sites. So if you're like looking up, and the funny thing about defense, it really depends on how you got the score. Are you heavy on the tackles? Are you heavy on, are you light on the tackles? I mean, there's some ways of scoring defense. If you do the standard, it could be really good, but if you got like extra bonuses in there, it'll help you out. And there's so much you can do with the defense. That's something so neat about the defense. But you can do it also with the offense. But It just depends on how your forte, I guess.
It
I
is.
mean, what I try to do is when I set up a site or a league, try to do the general settings. I let the general settings and then I put all the bonuses in. So there might have been a few tweaks we did with the defense, but mainly it's like if you set it up as sleeper, this is basically the points you'd get unless you add the extra defensive stuff in there. Some
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah, we normally do the same thing. I mean, you're in it. We normally do the same thing. We start general, and then we all start talking about bonuses and stuff. And every off season, we always have a discussion of if there anything needs to be tweaked or if score needs to be changed or whatever. But I think this year is probably actually the first year where nobody really had something to change or anything. So it's just all depends on how you want to do your league and the scoring and stuff.
So last year's season, TJ Watt was ahead of the DLs with 271. Max Crosby was 187. But Max Crosby also had injuries during that season, so he didn't play the whole. He was
Yeah.
out a few games. He was out game
Yeah.
4.
He
He
played
was out.
12 games from what I'm
Yeah.
reading. Yeah. So yeah,
So
well, I
that
mean,
comes in. That comes
even
into my. Go ahead.
even so, I would still bank on Max Crosby. I think he's gonna have a healthier year.
So that brings me to the one discussion, which I already kind of conceded offline, but maybe I can sell it. But I think we're undercutting Aiden Hutchinson. We're undercutting him so bad that it kind of hurts my belly because at the end of the day, if he had got hurt after the first 6 games, none of these guys would have mattered. He would have outscored all of them. And that
It's
just showed him in the first 6 games. But at the end of the day, I mean, if it was me, I would have had him in the tier 1. But I'm
well,
fine putting him in at the beginning of tier 2 because still his young season. But I still think he's going to probably be one of the best DLs out there moving forward.
which you could be right, but the only reason why I just put him in tier two is because you know it's gonna this year is gonna be the injury comeback year, and he could come back and just go out full swinging and go jump back into tier one immediately. But we have seen in the past, and especially in the past couple of years, with significant injuries like this, it takes some players, a whole full year to get back into football shape after that injury, and then the next year after that makeup year, then they jump. Most of the time, they jump back into full form. Some of them do, some of them don't. But with Aiden Hutchinson, I think he's going to get back into full form and be tier one. I just think we just need to pump the brakes just a little bit and let's him get him back into football shape after such a significant injury. He's still a great player, and I think he is one of the top defensive linemen. But this year I'm just lowering my expectations just due to the fact that he is coming off of a significant injury, and it's going to be his year of get right.
And I'm in agreement with that to a point because I do know on the defensive side of the ball, sometimes these injuries and him being out like after the first 6 games and gone the whole season, there's a chance that he doesn't come flying out the gate, pounding the ball, and he could sit out part of the season. So I'm in agreement with Austin on that because sometimes on that comeback year, especially on defense, even on the offense, some players just don't bounce back like the Christian McCaffreys of the world, where they can just walk out and do another 30 points and like nothing ever happened. So we've seen it time and time again. And the NFL, the injury, is just crazy. So that's one reason why I kind of like when I seen the list, I had already already stepped back a little bit and said, all right, I could put him in tier 2, let him get healthy. Because honestly, I believe he is going to be the tier 1 guy next. But maybe it's not next season. Maybe it's the season after. But in fantasy wise, he's definitely a great pickup, especially in an IDP league. One, he's still young. And if you notice something about defensive players, they age like fine wine. The older they get, the better they get. It is quite the difference of the offense. And I think a lot of it is done because of the rotation versus the amount of snaps. I mean, to me, it seems like these guys, as they get better skilled and reading that offense, and as they're developing and they're going in and out of the game and they're moving their way up, seems like over time they get better and better and better and better. It's like that's usually what a defensive player does. I mean, you'll see we'll have guys that's been playing in the league for a long time in the top tiers. First on the offensive side, you got a lot of younger guys that are up in the top tier, and the older guys are the ones who are worried about fading away. Defense, it's different. It's a different whole, another kind of like perspective, I guess you could say. So next on that list, I mean, I don't have too much to disagree. Oh, I hit the wrong button. I hit it again. How many times can you do that? So I'm good with the top one being Max Crosby, Will Anderson Jr., TJ Watt, Myles Garrett as our tier one. Moving into our tier two, Aiden Hutchinson, we'll just discuss, leads it off. Right behind him, you can't forget about Micah Parsons down in Dallas. I mean, yes, it seems like he took a step back, but he never really did. I mean, he's playing more of his defensive lineman role versus what he did the years before. But we can also see a switch in that. We can see him go back to that edge rusher. We can see him doing more. And I believe we will. So I'm totally with you. I'm putting him in a tier two. Trey Hendrickson, I believe, should be in a tier two. Danielle Hunter, I agree. He should be in a tier two. Now,
So
Jared Burt.
I wanted to throw a point real quick. He did take a step back last year, but Micah Parsons, in his 4 years being in the league, he has had double-digit sacks. He has not had a year where he is under double digits. So I just wanted to throw that point out there that even though he did he also missed some games too. He only played 13 games. So even though it wasn't, as impressive as didn't seem impressive like the other years, he still had double digit sacks, and you want consistency out of your defensive players. But Trey Hendrickson is my guy, though. Trey Hendrickson, the only thing I'm worried about him is this whole contract talk that is going on right now with the Bengals. It seems like that he really I expect him to play, but he's also doing that thing where most players do, where they threaten not to play if they don't get a contract and all that. But that's something to monitor. But as of right now, I still think Trey Henderson is going to play, and this man has had 17 and a half sacks in the past 2 years, and that's really impressive.
Yes, I agree with you. So, with that being said, the next guy, I don't really believe, I'm trying to figure out why you would have him in tier two at this moment in time. I can see him maybe tier three, but I'm looking at his, his stats don't even tell me he should be there. But let's see, maybe I'm missing something. Let me look back here. So, the next guy we're going to talk about is Jarrett Burks. Should he be a tier two or tier three? I mean, he
Jared
scored.
Verse? Oh God, yes, he should be in tier two.
Why do you say he should be a tier two?
Because that guy was disruptive in the defensive line. Heck, he finished as the number 5 defensive lineman in fantasy this past year. I mean, he was always in the backfield. I mean, he had for a defensive lineman having 66 sacks, which is very impressive for a defensive lineman for one. 4.5 sacks, which is still good.
Okay, you said he
And he also had 2 forced fumbles and 2 fumble recoveries. I mean, he won Defensive Rookie of the Year last year. I mean, this guy is a disruptor, and I think he's going to be in the top 5 defensive linemen again
But see,
because
we're ranking it as IDP points, and IDP points he didn't finish in fifth.
I'm going by the rankings on Sleeper.
I'm looking at the rankings on Sleeper. He ain't in fifth on a PPR league.
It's got player rankings number 5, DL.
Yeah, I'm going by fantasy point rankings, not rankings of someone's opinion. Because they have their own rankings, and then I go like, let's see what their stats are. You look at a fantasy points.
This is stats, not by opinions. I'm
Well,
literally
he
pulled up.
scored 187 points total all season.
Well, I'm looking, and I'm actually looked up his name and typed in Jared Verse, and I had number 5 defensive line, not IDP, just defensive line as a total.
So when I pull up 24 stats, DL
24.
season,
Oh, that's a different website then. I was just looking at Sleeper.
yeah, so his total fantasy points is 187 points. He finishes below Max Crosby that missed games. Well, he actually tied with Max Crosby. 187 is what Max Crosby
Okay.
scored.
Well, he was still explosive and powerful, and he was a
Yes, and he did
disruptor,
get the
and he did
yeah,
good.
yeah,
And
he did.
I project him to be high because that's what my rankings are, is projecting these players and what I think they're going to do in the
Mhm,
year and how good they're going to do. That's the reason why we have 2 different rankings, and that's the reason
yeah.
why I have him at tier 2, because I think he is just going to be that good.
I think he's a tier 3, but not a tier 2 yet. I think he's not shined as the Aiden Hutchinsons and the Michael Parsons and the Trey Hendricksons and the Daniel Hunters that all finish in the top 10 scoring. I mean, that's different when them guys they're out there scoring and they're in that top enchilada. But I mean, he's young. His 1 year he started. Okay. I mean, I'll go ahead and give it to you. I'll put him in tier 2. I wouldn't have him there yet, but we'll go there. I think it's a little too soon to call it, but with him being at the Rams, yeah, they got to have that defensive shiner. He might be it. So we might be talking as a tier 1 the next year versus tier 2. So that could possibly switch. But remember, guys, last year he only scored 187.
Well,
If it was me, I wouldn't even pick him. I would probably go for someone higher than that. But
well, yeah, okay. Carry on.
Carry on. So we're going to go to 4. And we're going to say Brian Burns leading off the 4. Oh, no, 3. I'm sorry. I skipped 3 altogether. Shit.
You skipped the whole damn tier list, brother.
Yeah. I was like, oh, man. I was so upset about the Jarrett Verse. I was like, I'm going on, and who cares about what happened in 3? All right. So 3, we got Brian Burns. Definitely, if anybody should have been in tier 2, could have been him, but no, not really. Brian Burns is a good DL. I usually try to pick up 2 actual DL players on my roster. I usually list at DLs, and I try to get them within the top 3 tier if I can. Anybody else outside that, I'm going for linebacker in DL. And Jarrett Verse would also be listed as both. So at the end of the day, he would be probably someone I would pick up because he could play either one. Scoring to linebackers, no. He's way down below because linebackers are all scoring higher than most of these DL guys we're talking about. They're almost equivalent to your running backs and your quarterbacks. Maybe not so high as quarterback, high end wide receiver and a high end running back. Would you not agree?
Yeah, usually linebackers score the most, and then
Safeties, which is your
it's
DBs.
usually safeties and DBs, and then it's your edge defensive linemen.
So we're going to mention the first rookie. Now, I don't really think I did not have him in my list of DLs. I'll be honest. I had him in my LBs. And guess what? I had him as a tier 3 in my LBs. So I'm going to go ahead and be like, okay, I'm good because I know, and I already see it, he's going to be listed as both. He's going to be /LB. He's going to be DL. And that's Abdul Carter. And I honestly believe Abdul Carter is a tier 3 no matter which way you look at him, in linebacker or as a DL. So
Yeah,
I don't have that argument. If not, I think next year we're going to be talking higher about him.
it just depends on how the Giants want to use them. Because I mean, last year at Penn State, he did, he had 68 combined tackles, which is the linebacking part you're talking about, and then he had 12 sacks, which is the defensive line's reason why I threw him up here, is because he had 12 sacks last year. So it showed me that they were willing to use him for both, and he can do both.
Yeah, but
So
some of the sacks and some of the playbook that Penn State does is they bring in that middle linebacker straight up the middle. He ain't playing DL.
well,
He's sacking the
I
quarterback.
mean, I
That's a
mean,
common play at Penn State. I mean, if you watch Penn State ball, it's like they don't just run
you're
at
probably right. You're probably right, but all the film that I have watched with Abdul, he was always lined up on the edge, so that's the reason
Yeah,
why I
that's
think it
true.
might
He
be
does line a
out.
lot up on the edge, and they'll probably use him like that at the Giants. And I think it's going to be good. Either way, I put him into tier 3. I don't disagree with you. Um, Malik Williams is your next guy you have in a tier 3, right? Am I reading that right?
Yeah, I got George
I know George.
Karstoleftis. Yeah, I got George Karstoleftis, if that's how you say his name. He's the defensive lineman that plays for Kansas City.
I don't disagree with you. Think you have his name spelled wrong.
I was going by what I looked up, man, so I might have, but I was just looking at what I was given. Oh, I got it right here. It's KR. Okay, so I do got his name spelled wrong. It's supposed to
Yes.
be Karlaftis. That was also probably one of the mishaps that I made whenever I was half asleep.
Yeah, I'm sitting here like looking him up, and I'm like, don't think his name's spelled right.
Well, you can't
Now he
lie
wasn't even
like
on my
that.
list. I'll be honest, I didn't even have this guy on my list. He wasn't on my DL. I'm fine with you having him on his DL because we are just doing DLs. The difficult thing about a DL list and a linebacker list is my DL list is small, very small, because I focus more on the LBs because a lot of your DLs, they're only scoring 120 points, 140, 160, and they're playing 17 games like this guy. The ones I'm looking at that carry the DL title has to be that Ancelot guys that are scoring the 200 or better. And there's like only a group of 20. So you dance in with a little bit of LBs, but they also slash DLs like your Micah Parsons and your TJ Watts. And at the end of the day, I'm also looking at a lot of your linebackers that are carrying the DL spots that are scoring the 200, but they're the lower end of the linebackers. They're the ones I'm filling into my 2 DL spots. They're the ones I'm putting in there because I want to go out and win. Picking up this guy, I mean, he's a good guy to have on your bench. And if you need him to play, yeah, but I wouldn't want to play him every day per points of a game. But that's just my opinion. Uh, Latu, I think there's a little bit to him. He showed a good start. So, yeah, I could see him in a tier 3. Don't disagree with that. Monte Sweat, yes, he's in my top 20. So, at the end of the day, that's a DL I would pick up with no hesitation. Keep bringing up that list. Let me close that completely out. Trevion Walker, another DL that was in my top 20. Definitely agree that he's in a tier 3. I have no disagreement with that guy. I'm going to leave George in there. I'm going to let you have George because, I mean, DLs are so hard to read, guys. So we give you a little extra to look at on the DL. I'm good with that because he did score 167 points total last year. It's not that bad. Tier 3, we're in tier 3. We're not tier 2 and tier 1 anymore. So really, I couldn't really debate it. And then as a player, he is a good player. So I mean, he could have his moment. He could go up higher next year. It's not every year like it's going to be that. But DLs are the toughest to rank, I think, in my opinion. They're the
Well,
hardest to rank.
well, honestly, the only reason why I've got such big lists is because I've been doing a lot of deep diving into this. That's the reason why it's been taking me a lot longer to give you the list than usual because I've been deep diving into stuff like this. So, and also I've been really looking heavy into my dynasty leagues here in the past couple of days because of our rookie drafts are solely but are coming approachingly in a few next few months. So I've been deep diving into this stuff. So yeah, but it is very hard though. If you're not like actually looking hard into this, it can be very hard to pick and choose of the defensive linemen.
And see, that's where I kind of disagree with Austin. I've been digging hard into this too, but I'm not that focused on my DLs at the end of the day. I'm more LBs, defensive backs are the ones I've been really drilling, trying to focus on because when I line up my team, I'm still going /LB and DB.
Well, defensive linemen's got me into the playoffs in my dynasty leagues this past
Well,
year, so they are very important to me.
well, the next one I do agree is top tier one. Greg, how do you say his name? Rossi?
I think it's Russo.
Russo. Yes. I have him on my team. Actually, he's very good. So yeah, he's a DL I would pick up. He's also listed. And I believe that's everybody. Oh no, I missed one on your list. I'm sorry, I didn't even mean to skip him.
The only one I could think of might have been Quentin Williams.
No, I listed Quentin Williams. I had him. I got Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, George, Latu, Monte Sweet. I'm sorry. Trevon Walker. They make me sweat. Quentin Williams and Craig. And then the next one.
I think you got everybody on my tier 3. I think you did. Pretty sure you did. Because you got Brian Burns, Abdul Carter too. So yeah, I think you got everybody on my tier 3. Unless you forgot somebody on your tier.
So I'm not being lazy when I look up football players. I'm looking them up too. But you got a rookie listed that I didn't have listed. That's why I probably bypassed him.
Oh, Williams.
Michael Williams. Yeah.
They pronounce his name.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe he'll be a tier 3. We go ahead and throw him. Georgia guy. Where did he land at? Closed out my draft list. That's where he landed at. Oh, he went to the 49. Ooh, that's a good place to play, though. Yeah, he went to the 49ers, didn't he?
Yeah, that's the reason why I threw him up
definitely, there. Definitely, I would put him in a tier 3. That's a good place to go to be a defensive end. Yeah, no disagreements there. And maybe we'll do a show on like IDP setup and explain this a little bit better because everybody has a different strategy. So I found out I do better on defensive ball when it comes to linebackers /DLs. I play a lot heavier with that. And a lot of them are linebackers, but they carry the DL title. It's just me. But yeah. So the next one going into tier 4, we got Nick Bosa. And right behind Nick Bosa, you got the guy that got drafted in the first round, which I was so surprised we got him below Williams. But then Williams is going to be more of a linebacker too. I think that's the difference. That's going to be the difference. I'm going to tell you that right now. Yes, I can see that now because Mason Graham will never be more than just a DL. And it really depends on how he utilizes that center part and how he becomes a defensive lineman. I don't think he'll ever be listed as a linebacker in fantasy. I don't even know what they got him currently listed in fantasy. So let's find out.
I think they got him on the defensive line right now.
Yeah, I think that's all they're going to list him as. He's just a center guy.
Until, unless he's one of those, because there's always a 1 in a million chance. I'm not going to say it is, but there's always a 0.5% chance that he could be one of those hybrid ones. But like I said, 0.5%, so don't look too heavy into that.
Oh, I'm looking heavy in it because you brought it up. I'm now going to grade you on it.
Well, I don't care. That's fine.
I'm just kidding.
I know.
I'm trying to find him.
Mason Graham, they got. Well, I know I'm looking on the depth chart. I know you looking on the fantasy side, but
Well, we need
I'm
to look
looking
at
at
the
the depth
fantasy
chart.
side and not the
Well,
depth chart.
that's what I said. You're looking at the depth chart on the fantasy. I'm looking at the depth chart right here. And right now it's got him at a defensive tackle. So they'll probably list him as a defensive lineman. And that's probably what they're just going to have him as.
That does make sense. You know, the funny thing is I thought I would done find him. Here, hold on. Maybe I'm spelling his name wrong here. I know it ain't that hard. I love graham crackers. You figure I could spell that with my eyes closed.
I do love me some graham crackers too.
Yes. So
Yes.
fantasy is only DL.
Yep. Sleeper's got him as DL.
Yeah, so he's not going to carry both titles. So yeah, if not, he could probably be, tier 4 would be acceptable because is he going to be a Brian Burns? Is he? Because really, honestly, that's the thing. If you look at projections, let's see what they got him as projection. Oh, they only project him 83, which is, let me tell you, defense is like the worst projection points ever in fantasy. It's like I want to like claw my eyes out when I see 0 on a player, and you don't see the player score 3 weeks in a row over 20 points a game, and they still can't project his points because they don't know what is he going to do when they play this kid. And then they'll get some of them right, but there's not that many people involved on the defensive side. So I think that's a lot of the reasons why they have a hard time projecting these guys. Are they going to be in that package? Is that team going to play them? It's like it's so much into it.
It's a little bit different. It's a lot more different than the offense, where offense it's kind of easier to at least throw a projection out there. But defensive linemen, you ain't never gonna know what happens with defense.
Yeah. Most of them are scored. Will Anderson, his first season, he was pretty much 0 for the first 10 games. They project. And if you look at his season, he scored more than 0.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the projection side of IDP, what I would do is look at what he's ranked, like what Austin just did. He looked up the actual roster of the team. If the guy is the starter, then he's going to play. If he's even listed as the second guy in some packages, he's going to play. And the way they rotate defensive players out, if he's in the top 2 on that list, he's going to play. So that tells you is if he does anything in his 50% snaps, because some of these guys can score all their points in the 50% time that they're on the field. And it's crazy because some of them will only play 50%. And then some of them play that 67% snaps of the defense. And when I say snaps, I'm talking just defensive snaps. They're not counting the offensive snaps because they're not going to play an offensive snap. So, I mean, if the guy's listed as a starter, you need to consider playing. That's all I can say. I mean, that's the best I can tell you. So the next one you got is Jalen Walker. I totally agree with you as a tier 4. I have him as my tier 4. I also have my tier 4, Dexter Lawrence, which you have Dexter Lawrence. Now you got one on here that you got me. I got you.
Who's that?
It's more like I can't pronounce the guy's name, but I do like him. But I call him Adu. But you call him whatever you want. I just can't really say his name.
Hold
on. I'm gonna do something real quick for you to help you out, so we don't embarrass ourselves too bad.
I'm trying to figure out who you're talking about. Oh, you're talking about
guy plays for Baltimore, DL.
Oh,
yeah, but I don't know if he's a tier 4. I mean, I know he's good. But then we're at tier 4. It doesn't really matter at this point, right? I mean, tier 4, as long as they're scoring over 100 points, you should be happy. And he does do that for defense. He
did decent last year. I mean, 6.5 sacks. I mean, that's something, especially for they got him listed as a defensive tackle.
Yeah, but in a fantasy is, I don't know. I don't know if I'd be going out and reaching out. See, that's why I don't put too many people in my DL. Because a lot, like when you get into your tier 4, your tier 5, your tier 6, these guys are barely breaking 100 points in fantasy. It doesn't matter if I get 6 sacks. Okay?
Did
because
he? I
that's
think
all
he
he
did
does.
break 100, if I'm
No, he
not
got
mistaken.
104 or 108 or something in PPR.
So he broke over 100.
Lovely. Pinpoint. Like, I like it when we
I
talk.
mean, he broke it over 100. You said, didn't break over 100. Well, I mean, he broke over 100.
Okay. Good
I mean,
argument. Oh, man. All right, we're good. So let's see. Yeah, the only ones, I'll be honest, I only had
and,
like,
and besides this guy, we're getting to the part of the defensive lineman where they're basically going to be, possibly sitting on either like your bench or, depending on how young they are and how your
if you
settings
go into
are
our
on your
leagues right
taxi
now and
squad
type
and
these
stuff.
guys' name in, they're on our waiver wire.
That's what I'm saying. That's the reason why I'm like most of these other guys that I've looked up and I just threw them together. I mean, it's more of a like, well, this guy has a chance, but I'm just going to throw him on the list anyways because he's got a chance. And we're getting into the weeds now at this point.
Yeah, but you got a Josh Hines in tier 5, and he scored in the top 10 last year for DLs.
Who?
Josh Hines, Allen,
Oh,
Josh
that's
Hines, Allen.
oh no, that's only because of age.
But like we just said, age, defense doesn't matter.
Yeah, but it's
Oh,
also his contract problem. His contract too. I looked up his
okay.
I looked up his contract and stuff, and if they really want to get him out of it before he turns 30, they can literally lease him the next year or so.
All right. So the next one, you got Alex Highsmith. DeForest Buckner, yes, I agree totally. He should be a tier 4. Alex Highsmith, yeah, okay. Uh, Jeffrey Simmons, yes, I agree. And I believe you got another rookie in here,
I do.
Sherman. And I honestly have high hopes for Sherman Stewart. So I'm going to kind of go ahead and get on that bandwagon and say, let's see what he does.
Right
The
now, it's a
next,
smooth ride.
yeah, next one you got, then I'm like, okay, whatever. Carl, you guys are like, really, Ralph? I'm like, yeah, really. I mean, I'm telling you, yeah. Tell the people out there, let them know who your DLs are on your team that won you the championship. Can you tell me who them are or helped you in the playoffs?
I mean, a lot of the. Well, I don't have all of these guys, but let me go to my roster and I'll tell you.
Well, while you're doing that, we're going to start tier 5 off. I'll name everybody off tier 4 while you look that up. Because I want to know, like, the depth of that to see.
All right, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I got Greg Russo,
Okay,
Trey
you two, three.
Hendrickson,
Uh-huh.
and then that's my 2 starters. Since we got ours set in only 2 starting. And so on my bench, I have Montez Sweat.
Okay.
I have Josh Sweat.
Okay.
I have Tula Tapuluto. Lutu.
Okay.
I have Zach Allen. And I've got a couple of. Okay, no, he's just strictly linebacker.
Are they listed as just
Linebacker.
DLs or linebacker DLs?
As of right now, the ones that have clicked on, they are all, except for one, the Tula guy. He's listed as both, but the rest are listed as defense DLs, just strictly. And I also have. Do I got anybody? Oh yeah, I also got Trevondre Sweat, the defensive lineman that last year's rookie that was drafted by the Tennessee Titans. So I have some guys that I'm probably going to name off that are like in my lower tiers.
Well, starting off with your top 2 starters, I had them in my top 2 tiers anyways as DLs.
Oh yeah,
I'm
because
just
they're starters.
saying,
Yeah.
yeah, the Derek Browns and the Bukas. I mean, most of the guys are going to be on your waiver wire, but I guess they're there if you need them. And if the depth chart is needed, if injuries, they have potential.
Oh, they're always needed, brother.
Yeah.
Especially after
Injury.
last year, that's always needed.
Yeah, but it was needed on offense too. But like, for instance, my linebacker list, I had to sit there and cut half of it off because I had too many. It was like I just couldn't stop putting people up in the top for linebacker.
Well, you're more welcome to cut this off whenever you like.
Because to me, linebackers are more because they're going to be the ones you're going to play in your flex.
Hey.
You're not going to throw your DL guy in there.
Hey, I just have options for the public.
I know you do. I'm not trying to criticize you, but I do agree with Tula. Yes, he's a good DL. He would have been higher up for me. You have him tier 5. I'm fine. Let's put him in tier 5. So I think we're over full in tier 4. Chris Jones, definitely a tier 5. I think we probably undercutting him, but then again, he's only going to be a 100-point guy anyways. But he's really good. Nolan Smith, right now, he's not done as good as I was hoping he would do, but he has his moments. And the one that shocked me the most is I had him higher up, but you had him lower, and that's Josh Allen. But I've looked at what he's done the last 2 years, and that is true. He is aging, and he does have some contract issues. So could possibly be it. Walter Nolan, I could agree. You could put him in a tier 5. Yeah, I don't have no issues with that. And then Nick Bonito, I agree. Tier 5, that's pretty good. And then you have Christian Wilkins. I think Christian Wilkins was probably a tier 4 to me, but I was fine with putting him in tier 5. And he's also playing alongside Max Crosby. So I think they probably have 2 of the best DL guys together on the line. Very impressive at the Raiders. Just hopefully they can stay healthy enough to play together.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
That's a frustration part of mine. And I guess that's where you come in. You're right. I mean, we got to go deep with DLs because all these guys we've mentioned, from Aiden Hutchinson to Max Crosby to TJ Watt to Myles Garrett, even Will Anderson is having injuries here and there. So at the end of the day, you'll find out. Yeah, depth is mainly it right there. Kenneth Grant, that's a rookie, ain't it?
It is a rookie.
All right, like it. Slicing it up, throwing them in tier 5. I do agree with James Pierce starting off tier 6. I would have put James Pierce and Talik Williams in tier 6 starting off because we don't know what they're going to bring yet, but they're both good powerhouse DLs. Jaheed Campbell, I did not have him in my list at all.
Yeah, like I said, well, most of these, the only reason why I threw them in there is because once again, it's going to be, whatever they want to do and how they're going to use them.
Yeah, we already know Jalen Carter. I don't know. They do kind of throw him to the so I could see that. But he's listed as a linebacker. The way he scores is just. I honestly believe okay, for one, us throwing them in tier 6, we're just putting their names out there right now. But I'm gonna put their names out there because honestly, guys, you can pick up any one of these 2 players, pick them up. Actually, the next 3 players, if you don't pick them up, they should be way higher because all of these guys would fall under. I don't know, McDonald would, but Jalen Carter would, and Jaheed Campbell both would be in my linebacker list. So I agree. We'll put them at tier 6. Young guys, definitely. Now, if they're carrying both titles at the end of the day, I mean, you can play either way, right?
Right. So now, if you want to end this at tier 6, we're more definitely can, because all of these other players, they're just going to be basically, on your bench hopeful guys. And
No. I like some of the ones you have in tier 7. I
okay,
mean, yeah, I mean,
okay.
there's some. I just think some of the ones you have higher up, I'm like, oh. But then we're doing early rankings, we're doing projections, and maybe you see something I don't see. So
But because, like I said, so I look all across other rankings, and I try to get the vibe of what everyone else is thinking. I'll look at other people's rankings and stuff, but then I'll go back and then I'm like, okay, well, I can kind of see that, but then because there's some players that's on here that I have higher up, I have high hopes for, and I think they just do better than some of these other people who have, their consensus and their ranking stuff is just I get the layout of the land and then I throw them in where I think, you know, I like them at. And most of the time, I agree with the consensus, but a lot of the times I don't. And it's just the same way with you. You do the same thing. You either agree with the consensus or you have your takes and you throw your opinions out there because that's what all we're doing. And you know, and with defense, it's kind of hard anyways to right now it's just a lot of names that either once done great things and or age has got them down, or it's they drafted a younger guy who's took their spot, or there's just so many different variables to this.
yeah, but on defense, you'll notice sometimes it's the chemistry. So it don't have to be the age. You could line certain people up with certain groups, and they don't do as well. You put them in other groups, they do. They feed off of each other. I mean,
Yeah,
some
I mean,
players had their biggest days when they had certain players playing alongside of them, versus if they go and play with another group, they had struggles because defense is a team oriented. Well, they're all team oriented positions,
you
but
can, yeah, I think that's with everybody though. You can say
yeah,
that chemistry stuff with offensive players too, because
yeah.
if you don't have good chemistry on a football team, you ain't going anywhere.
We seen it go sideways when you start arguing in the locker room, haven't we? All
Oh, definitely.
right, so I think we just we're to let everybody know we're still on tier 6. So in
Now,
tier
now
6,
I'm now I am open to for the rest of these. I'm open to if you think one needs to go down, then I'm good with that. Or if you think we need to move one up, I'm also good with that.
well, no, I'm gonna leave it like it is. I mean, I'm good because, like I said, my tier list only had probably about 20 players on it, if less, and yours had a little bit more to choose from. So it gives people a little bit more option, and it also helps them out for linebackers. I think if they start looking up some of these players, they're going
Yeah,
to understand what we're talking about, and they're going to say, "Oh, they mentioned Jaheed Campbell, or they mentioned Will McDonald. They said that about them, or Jalen Carter. Oh, I need to pick them up." And even a Zach Steeler, yeah, I agree. You should list him. Yeah, he's only a DL, but he scored 149 parts. 149 parts. 149 points. But at the end of the day, that was just that season. There's been seasons where he's done over 200. So it really depends on how he's applied and what action he does. And let me give you a great example. Zach Vaughn is a great example. This guy was a backup for the Saints, hardly ever scored over 100 points. And in 3 years, went on to the Eagles, and now he's like the top linebacker. I mean, crazy. It can happen. So, and that's even on the offense. You get a wide receiver 1 year, they're like struggling, and the next year he catches every reception and he scores like 22 touchdowns, and we're like, wow. And we all run to that little thing. So defense is like that too. So I agree with tier 6. James Pierce Jr., Talik Williams. I think that's good to start off with some rookies like that. We got a lot of rookies out here, but there was a lot of rookies drafted in the DL, like I mentioned before. And we haven't even mentioned some of the free agency guys out there yet. Jalen Carter, Jaheed Campbell, Will McDonald, Jonathan Greenyer, Dallas Turner, and Zach Zeeler. Yeah, all of them. I'm fine with them in tier 6. And then the next one, I also fine with putting Kylie Mack down there. Even though previous years we had him ranked higher, he is kind of stepping off some. And it is some age, and it is time where you're starting to see him fade as not like he used to, but he also has some days where he just comes out there and pounds away the ball and gets the points up. And he doesn't pound away the ball. He pounds the other players is what he's doing. Let me rephrase that. So I'm good with that. And you got Jermaine Johnson. I'm fine with that as a tier 7. Next one you have, I always have a hard time pronouncing his last name. Kavion. I know how to pronounce his first name.
I'm gonna say Thibodeau, but you can look it
Yeah,
up and
it's
just
one of
correct
them
me.
French names. But yeah, I agree. He should be a tier 7, if not a tier 6. I mean, he's definitely got a lot of potential.
It
Still,
would probably be up higher a little bit if they didn't draft, Abdul Carter, and it also just, I mean, if Abdul Carter, plays predominantly linebacker, I could see Kayvon going up a little bit more.
and I agree with that because that does happen sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got Jonathan Cooper. I agree with that. And yes, I had Chop Robinson down here in tier 7, so we're all on the same page with him. Was not a big fan of him last year. Still not a big fan of him. I don't think he's been that impressive, but he is good enough to be kind of like paying attention to. Boy Mafia, okay. I like that. That's a little spicy, but okay. Didn't have a bad season last year, did he? Let's see.
Mm-mm.
Let's do a little research on this bad boy. Love the defensive guys just to kind of see where he was at. Yeah, about 118. He got a little over 100. He's a backup guy you want to put on the bench, but he could have his day soon. Any of these guys can. And Jalen Phillips, I'm good with that. That gives you guys 52 players, I believe we have here. 53. We got 53 players. I'll make sure I didn't have anybody double in here. I get carried away sometimes. Nope, that's 53 players. So we just went through 53 players for DLs only. Now, some of these guys are slash LB. So when you guys go to Sleeper app and these other apps, you see LB slash DL or DL slash LB. That means they can play either one of the positions. You line them up in either one. Some leagues only have set up an IDP 1 for each position. Some will have 2 for each position. I don't think I've seen any out there yet that has 3 for each position. It's usually 2, 2, 2, and then a flex, which gives you 5 defensive. Some will have 2 flex. I play in a league that has 2, 2, 2, and then 2 flex. Then I also play in a league that has 1, 1, 1, and then a flex. Flex is just like a offensive flex. They give you the positions you can play to flex. That flex is DB, LB, or DL. Most of the time, you'll never put it's like a tight end. You hardly ever see a tight end go on a flex unless it's Travis Kelce or the special tight ends that's come out recently.
Or if you have everyone hurt and you have no choice but to throw another tight end.
Right. Then you would throw a DL in your flex because most of your top DL, solid DLs that don't carry the linebacker with them are usually, like I said, there's only like 10 or 20 of them in the top that score over 200 points. Most of them are after that, they're under that. So it's like you're not going to be out there. The only way you're putting them in is if you're like injured. So that's one way of looking at it. All right. So, guys, if you like the content, please hit the like button. And don't forget to subscribe. And what do you always say?
Make sure you share because sharing is caring.
That's right. So I'm going to throw Austin off guard just a little bit. So I didn't even talk to him offline on this. So I don't even know how he's going to feel about this. So we run dynasty leagues. And sometimes we have people either quit, other things happen, and leave. So we do have a league that has an opening. And I was just curious to see if anybody out there would be interested. Now, it does have an entry fee and all that stuff, but I was just seeing how many people would be interested in maybe actually playing against us.
You actually
versus.
you mentioned this to me. I told
Yeah,
you. I told you to go ahead and let's see who wants to join.
you did. I remember now. So let me give you guys our email address. You can email us to. It's gonna be in the screen right here. Lowercase tdffms at gmail.com. Okay, I'll say it one more time for you guys. tdffms at gmail.com. If you're interested in playing in an IDP Dynasty, this league's only been going for 1 year. There's 2 teams available, and it's crazy what's available. I mean, because honestly, the only reason these guys finished where they finished was probably some of it was maybe roster setup, and others was injured, but I think more of it was roster setup. So just to run through this real quick, Team One, their quarterback room is Caleb Williams and Tua, and then they got a running back room with Derrick Henry, Eric Jones, Hill, Ramon Stevenson, Dillon, David Montgomery, and Mitchell. Then they got a wide receiver room: Jamar Chase, Kirk, McLaurin, McLeod, Mitchell, Brown, Franklin, and Corley. Then the worst part they have on this team is probably their tight end. They got a Barner from Seattle and Ruckett from New Jersey. The kicker is Butler and Carson on their team, which you can work on that. Linebacker, I like their linebacker room. They had Spillman, Barton, Campbell, Greenlaw, Jewell, Dotson, and Tranquil and Tarvia, which is pretty good. And then DLs, they have Newton, Sweat, which you had in your ranking. Hendrickson, you had in your ranking. Chris Jones, DeForest Bunkner, and Simmons. Pretty good DL list. We just mentioned these guys.
Mm-hmm.
The DB, they got Gardner, Duggar, Peppers, Kitchens, Whitehead, and Brisker, which is pretty good. And now let me give you guys the breaker of this. This is a dynasty, so we got a rookie draft this year. This team actually has the 101. They have all the first round, like the 101, 201, 301. They didn't trade nothing away. They didn't do hardly any activity. These was 2 new guys that got in the league, wanted to try it, ended up not liking it. Did a pretty good job of drafting a team, but didn't do much with it because they ended up with the 101. That means they ended up last. That's how you get the 101. But to me, that can win a championship team. I mean, if you do a little bit of work with your tight ends with the draft, I mean, you could really do some magic, some trades, whatever. It has 2 open bench spots and 7 taxi spots available. That is crazy. Then that's team 1. Team 2 gets even better, I think, because team 2, you got Baker Mayfield, Minshew, Bo Nix is the quarterbacks. Then in the running back room, you got Bijan Robinson, Najee Harris, Roscoe Johnson, Algier, Chubb, and McLaughlin. Okay, and the wide receiver room doesn't get any worse. It has Garrett Wilson, Metcalf, Devontae Smith, Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill, Quinshon Judkins, and Wilson. And then the tight end room gets even better. You got Kittle, Juno Smith, not Juju Smith, I'm sorry, Juno Smith, and Olton. And then the kickers, the only thing you guys got to look for is a kicker because they got Tucker. Tucker was released because he was doing, the happy thing. So he's no longer a kicker at Baltimore. And then the linebackers, it's just crazy. They got Mosley, Love, McFadden, Kendricks, Bentley, Pace. And then here's another DL guy that you were really in love with. Maybe I missed it. But I said he only scored 108 points, but here he is on the team. George Karlaftis, Robinson, Miles Garrett, Burns, Gardner, and Huff. And then he's loaded on the defense backs. Fitzpatrick, Love, Blackman, Gonzalez, Blankenship, and Alexander. And guess what, guys? He has the 102. So, and he has 5 open spots on that team on the bench, 7 tax spots available. So you wouldn't even have to cut players when you go to the draft. You could load up and make trades, and you could make magic with these 2 teams. But like I said, if you're interested, look at the email below. Hit us up. First come, first serve. We'll reply back if the opening's still there. We'll give you all the rules and guidelines. There is an entry fee. Does have a payout. So it's just like any other fantasy league. I run a total of 3 leagues on my own that are dynasty, not count my redrafts. Then Austin runs a league. And then we play in other people's leagues. So I'm in a total of 12 leagues current. And this is one of the 12 that I actually run. Just figure we'd throw it out there to see what our fan base wanted to do. If they wanted to play a little bit with us and see if they can match up. Now, some of these guys are still new too in these leagues. These are not veteran dynasty guys. So there's some few guys this be their second year into it. We started up a league just to kind of fill in some spots. But I will tell you right now that that's the biggest discussion about longevity. Austin has a league that's been almost 5 years now running. So don't ever think a league can end. If you have a good guy running it, the league will last a while. That's my opinion. You don't have to know everybody because we don't know everybody in the league. It's like these leagues spread across the United States of America.
Austin had to hop off real quick. We never did cover our DL list, our top 5 rookies. So I'm going to go over that real quick, Austin's side and my side. So Austin had Abdul Carter, number 1, Mason Graham, number 2, Malik Williams, number 3, Jalen Walker, number 4, and Sherman Stewart, number 5. Me on my side, I had Mason Graham, Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, Derek Harmon, and Sherman Stewart. So the difference is this. In IDP, you have LB/DL, DL/LB. So I'm mainly just focusing on the DL side that were drafted for DL positions from college for rookies, and these were my top 5. Abdul Carter, when he was drafted, was listed as a linebacker. And when Jalen Walker was drafted, he was also listed as a linebacker. Malik Williams was also listed as a linebacker. So I didn't really put them in my rankings. But at the end of the day, Austin ain't wrong for doing that because they are DLs in IDP leagues for fantasy. So there you go.